Welcome to the Metal Institute of Thrashology. It's a pleasure to meet you today.
Thank you.
So, I'd like to start off with your Draconian Darkness. The first two releases, both Grave and Everfall, got huge responses on YouTube. Did that surprise you, or did you kind of expect it to be a powerhouse of releases?
I did hope it would go that way naturally, but the the new cooperation with Rainy Phoenix Music seems to be paying off. Also, they done really good job with the YouTube, and yeah, that's I did hope things would go well, but it did exceed my expectations.
I'll be honest, I thought they were phenomenal releases. And after I heard your last album, The King of the North, it was sort of to me like, how do you step it up a notch from King of the North? But it seems you did, and it seems like a heavier, darker release.
Yeah, exactly. That was what I really wanted to do. Like I do love King of the North. Still, we play several songs on the set list, but I really wanted to push the band back to more darker side. I think that's where our strength lies, that we have a really strong contrast between the dark and heavier stuff and then the melodic stuff. Probably King of the North will remain the most mid-tempo and melodic album we've ever done and we will ever do, because it's so much more fun to do this little bit more dark and heavier stuff.
Well, I'll be honest, I really loved King of the North. And even with the collaborations with like Jesse Leach, it was sort of like, how do you step it up? So I'm really excited to see what the rest of this album holds. Could
Well,
you
it's gonna be surprised. I think it's well, I'm completely the wrong person to analyze the album because it's way too fresh. I have completely distorted connection and relation for the songs because I'm the songwriter. So like I see the whole album in a completely wrong kind of way. It will take like 1 year for me to be in any kind of like normal level to be objective about the album, but it is gonna be surprising. Like this was the most difficult album so far, not just for us, but the management and the label had the same issue. We were trying to pick up the single songs, and each song on the album was getting votes. So some of the songs were just basically putting on a list on the wall, and you blindfold and threw a dart into the list, and that's gonna be the single. And yes, a lot of variation on the on this album. So none of these two songs that are out are actually representing the album ideally. So it's gonna be very. I hope again I'm the wrong person because to me everything is best and surprise and everything because it's new songs for me. So
well, I guess that's great that everybody likes every song on the album. That's a good
that is
problem
that
to
is
have.
that is a strong point because yeah, usually again to a songwriter, it can be like I have my favorite songs, and when we start doing the single raffle, everybody says their points. And if my favorite song gets no votes at all, that doesn't feel super good. Like that's not the thing you wanna see happening. But this was like a different kind of weird because also we were trying to pick up the video songs. We are doing 6 videos for this album. Two
Wow.
of them are gonna come out after the album release, but like we wanted to have a really strong like a visual side on the album also. And even picking up those 6 songs was difficult. Like even still, it feels like we should have had maybe 7 videos because there's 1 or 2 songs that should have been like a singles, but it was yeah.
And now with you having like some concept albums in the past, like the Wolves of Carlia, I don't want to
Yeah,
pronounce it wrong,
that's
but
that's good enough. That's good enough.
you have concept albums and where you got to work with some veterans, and I'm sure that like was a completely different writing style for you, having to follow like the concept and their stories, or was it very easy for you just to pick up and tell the story?
Music wise, it was super easy because the music wise, the concept was just plainly war.
Sure.
So writing aggressive music that kind of like give this adrenaline boost and stuff like that that's pretty easy. Lyric wise, it was more complicated because I didn't talk to the veterans directly. I felt it that's not the piece I want to disturb. Like
Sure.
anyway, like the Finnish war history is super well documented. That's our at this point, at this day, that's our cultural like legacy. We are a very young country, so especially the Winter War, that's a huge part of our history as a country. So there's a lot of footage. A lot of the veterans they're not alive anymore. It's old enough that most of the interviews were done by people that are not alive anymore. So I was just watching a lot of documentaries, a lot of interviews. But of course, because of the point of the view of the album is just the regular people who went to war, not like this Sabaton style that I just basically do a musical Wikipedia that I tell what happened on this. Like that was not the point, to tell who lost and who fought and who won the fight, but it's like the personal aspect of different people. There's a lot of like Finnish, like the biggest war heroes were just regular, like a countryman, like Simo Häyhä, White Death, one of the most famous snipers in the world. With I think he still has the most amount of kills, and he was just a farmer. He was born in the neighbor village where I was born, in very close to the Karelian and the Russian border. So it was completely like different, and of course that was like not like tying my hands, but it didn't give me much liberty for my imagination. That would have been wrong place to start building things too much in my head, because it started from real events and real people.
Now, do you have any type of like concept through Draconian Darkness? Or I know like King of the North seemed to have more of like a nature feel to it. And it seems like these first two singles, just in my opinion, I mean, surely I didn't write the songs, but it seems to have more of like a personal touch to the nature.
It has. But it's yeah, the King of the North was about the Finnish mythology. It was about the ancient times where Nordic people were still worshipping animals like bears as a god of the forest, and praying for the rain and praying for the sun, and just very healthy, balanced way of living with the nature as part of the nature. And the Draconian Darkness is basically the flip side of the coin. This is the modern man that doesn't appreciate the balance. We take what we want, we burn and kill everything what is on our way, or like stopping us getting what we want. So we have completely fucked up like approach to the world's run. Like, and it's not about this moment. I've been clarifying this in many interviews. Like, it's not about today or tomorrow or yesterday. It's about the whole mankind. If you look at the history back like 400 years, and you think the next 50 years, maybe, I don't know how long we're gonna have in the future with this way of living, but it's just like about the whole pattern that everybody can see. It's not political, it's not historical, it's just things are escalating and getting fucked up. So Draconian Darkness is what basically follows in our footsteps. It's a shadow of a mankind. That's what we are. That's our contribution to the world. I think 50 or 100, hopefully 500 years later, when there's maybe an alien race coming to the earth and they see only burned forest and everything is destroyed, and then this is our legacy that they will find out. That's sure.
I still think that, like, as far as the footage in your videos, there's still some beautiful places left on this earth. I mean, your videos are just amazing.
There is, and we do a lot of work to, like, we do our own video production.
Oh, wow.
And we want to keep the videos also as things that we really enjoy doing. It's not like something we feel that we have to do when the album is done, and then we just have to get it done because it's part of the job. For this album, we went to Iceland for a week and spent there. We had a cabin with the hot tub that was the water was heated by the lava inside. Oh, wow. There were some areas we were not able to access because there was 2 volcanoes erupting at the same time. One day there was a weather forecast that there was a snowstorm, that we weren't allowed to go to certain areas because the wind is so high that the lava stones that are a little bit lighter are actually getting airborne. They're actually flying around. But at the same time, 1 week in that stunning country, just driving around and deciding like shooting location on the spot with one of your best friends in the car, evenings at the cabin in the hot tub, going through the footage. one of the coolest weeks of the whole year. So it's not just that we want to make visually strong videos, but we want to do the video productions in a way that it's like another additional layer of like really cherished memories of the album making.
I'm sure too, you probably had the same problem as with the album. Like, where do you pick a location in such a
Yeah.
beautiful country?
Like in Iceland, same with the northern Norway on the coast of the sea. Like it doesn't matter where you stop, you could do a video. Like it's just basically more like a reference. What do you exactly want to have? Like
Sure.
what shape of a mountain do you want to have? Or is the stone like a stone field black enough? But it's just like what we say in Finland, you are sniffing the bottle cap of the wine bottle, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, but everything in general, you could just do a video anywhere in that place.
So with you guys, or you in particular, doing most of the songwriting and producing your own videos, how do you stay inspired and how do you stay so creative? Because it seems that you're just releasing beautiful art into the world all the time. Like, how do you keep the cycle going?
Uh, it's been going on for 20 years now. So it's more like how to stop the cycle. I think I'm coming into an age, next birthday is going to be 45.
I'm right there
So
with you.
I know things are changing. I know I need more time for certain things. I want to rest a little bit more than I did when I was 25. But in the past 20 years, I've written 24 albums. I'm in the studio. I'm in the studio. I'm making the 24th album at the moment. Like we
Wow.
just ended the recording days today. So I think the main issue is like because it's just like a natural process for me to ongoing like just constantly writing music. And I get once I get excited about the music, I want to do an album. And when I have an album, I want to do the videos. It's just like each part of the cycle feeds another one. So it's not like a
Yeah.
snowball effect that just when it gets big enough, it hits a smaller one, it starts another one. But I think the biggest issue will be in next 5, 10, 20 years. I don't know when I do need to slow down, like, because that's going to be probably the biggest change that I've ever faced. But like, I don't feel that I need to be inspired. It's like a flow and I'm just riding that flow. And
That's great. So then, like you said, you'd have to slow down. Do people like? I just saw Judas Priest a couple months ago, and Rob Halford's 73,
yeah.
and he's still out there belting, sounding like it's the British Steel album. So maybe you don't, with you being as healthy as you are, always in a gym, and mentally, it seems like you're really healthy with getting this out, all your art out. You might be able to go for another 50, 80 years.
I probably will, but I do need to, like, now I'm still working like at the moment 3 bands at the same time. I'm gonna have like 4 albums out in 2 years,
Wow.
like kind of cycle. So I need to like that's the thing that probably needs to change. Like I still want to play concert. I still want to make music. I want to do fishing more. I want to have more time to go to the gym. I maybe want to see friends a little bit more, tour a little bit less in the future. It's like those kind of changes. Like it just slowing things down doesn't mean that I want to stop the things, but just but yeah, you start to feel when you're over 40 that it's been a long time since you were 25. So that's the thing. Like things need to slow down, and I think because I haven't slowed down in 20 years, that's will be the big change. But I don't see any reasons to stop completely, because that would be a complete void. I would have nothing, absolutely nothing to fill that hole. So that I think that would be the worst decision of my life.
So with like before the dawn just dropped the Archaic Fire a few months
Yeah.
ago. With you working in 3 bands, plus touring, plus recording, plus going to the gym, does it ever compromise one band or the other, or you just over 20 years know how to juggle and balance it all? It seems like you're just constantly working, and it's a beautiful thing, though.
It doesn't compromise the bands. I think that's, again, now I go back to the previous answer why in the future that I need to slow the pace maybe down a little bit, because like I compromise it from the private life.
Sure.
And of course, like that's so yeah, the bands, because it's not just me in the bands. I need to like consider every member of the band, and I can't just jump into schedules and change my mind and do quick and stupid decisions because of myself, because other people are getting paid and they need some certainty in their life and things need to be planned ahead. So yeah, I wouldn't be, I would feel horrible to compromise the bands because it's not just me. Every band has a different members. We have a crews and we have like plans that affect everybody and their personal life. But I take the time from sleep. I take the time from seeing friends. I stop going to the gym when it gets busy enough. So that's where I think, yeah, it's not the best compromise.
Sure. Understandable. So when you do, like you have two bands with two different sounds, do you have different guitars and different guitar setups and different pedal boards for each? Do you record differently than you go on the road with guitars, or?
Not actually at well. This Dawn of Solace album we are working at the moment. This is the first time we used another guitar than mine. Additionally, on the just because of we wanted to level different sound, but it's so different process. There was a different sound engineers on Before the Dawn and Wolfheart, so that differs quite a lot. It's completely different kind of music also, but I do like to keep my sound as mine because the bands do change, but I am the guitar player, so that's the sound I want to have. I would understand that the certain variety might be good, but then again, I'm stubborn and artistic enough to keep my head that's my guitar. That's my custom guitar that was built exactly with every detail to produce a certain sound for me. So that's part of the package, basically.
You just have one go-to guitar.
Yeah. That's I did try to have more than one, but I only play one at the time. And when the one actually grows as a part of your hand, like I had really good quality. Some of them custom stuff, some of them like just top of the line, but I still only played the one. So I could use a spare guitar, but I can always borrow one from my drummer when we go on tour or at the festivals. I don't need a second one. I would only play the one. To me the guitar is just like not just an instrument, but like a writing tool. And yeah, I've always been like, I always wonder people who have like I know one guy that I'm borrowing some of his guitars sometimes for video shoot for Vagelis, our guitar player, because flying from Athens to Helsinki is sometimes pain in the ass, and he has basically all the ESP models in this universe, and every 2 months he posts a new picture of a new guitar with new color or new hardware or whatever, and I'm holding the one that I bought 8 years ago. But
sure, if it gets the job done, why take it out of?
It does really well get the job done. Nothing else would get the job done better. So again, why would you change that?
Agreed. So what do you prefer? I know you can play the drums too. Do you prefer the guitar over the drums, or?
It depends of the in Wolfheart, I wouldn't be able to play the stuff that Jonas is playing. That's just like to prioritize drum rehearsals in that level would stop me from doing anything else.
Sure.
Absolutely. So in this kind of like a style of melodic death metal, yeah, I really rather play guitar, but I love playing drums in general. But like I wouldn't be able to pick either one as a favorite because it varies with the bands that I play in. With Before the Dawn, I nowadays play drums. I stopped doing the vocals and guitar, which is actually a lot more fun than it used to be with the guitar in that band. But with Wolfheart, I would never even consider. So
yeah, and the Wolfheart guitar tone sounds amazing. So when you write the guitar parts, do you write both the rhythm and the leads?
Yeah.
And do you play both in the studio, or do you only play like one and then your other guitar player plays the other?
Usually I do both. Well, mainly because of the location, because we are really rarely at the same country together. Even like, and then again, at the same studio, he does all the solo work, and it depends of the melody. He might play that in the studio, but I write like all the melody parts. It's just so much more efficient to play the rhythm guitars myself than sending him videos, and he rehearses all the songs for weeks, and then he plays his parts, and then we arrange him to come to Finland and stuff like that. So it just makes things so much faster and easier.
Makes
I'm not
sense.
saying that it would be better. Like, I wouldn't know. We didn't try it with this band. But then again, Vagelis plays like a normal scale 7-string guitars. I play baritone guitars. So that would affect the sound quite a bit if half of the guitars would come from a different like a scale instrument completely.
Yes.
So
Now, my one of my other questions is with the way, like, you've been in music for over 20 years, and the way that albums used to be released in the past is a full length release coming out, whereas now it's trickle out single by single by single.
yeah.
I understand the differences in marketing, and the single probably, the single trickling keeps you relevant more often. Do you prefer one style over the other, or?
Well, I do like this style because this allows me to work a lot more with the music videos. Like, more singles you get out, more work I get to do with the visual side. So I like that aspect because and I like releasing singles. It's a good promotion for the album. So like many ways it's a good thing, but I don't like that people seem to mostly focus on playlists and they find songs more than they find albums. Like that's like because that's not in my control. Like I would for any like a metal music fan, I would like to present the new album with various music videos. That's how I started finding like metal bands when I was growing up in a small village in the Russian border in Finland. One friend of mine had MTV and he was recording Headbangers Balls.
Yeah.
And I found so many bands just through music videos, and I grew up to this like that new music means new music. Like that's how you find music, that you see and hear the music at the same time. You see how the guys look like. You have always the visual side. So promoting an album that way is like ideal for me. But I would prefer that people would still get the album and listen to the first song to the last song. They would read the booklet. They would get to know what happened with the production. They would at least see the names, who was the producer, who like you get into the band a little bit differently that way. But when it's only like you are number 17 on the all new metal playlist, and then maybe your single gets to be on the heavy metal list on Spotify, or you get to do the breaking metal in Apple Music, and it's so distorted. People just find pieces of you here and there, and they probably might never do the whole thing about this. So it's like I see the goods and the bad sides.
I've always felt like I grew up in the 80s, and I remember reading the liners of the tapes, and you could see thank you, Wolfheart, and you'd say, oh, I want to go listen to Wolfheart.
I did the same. And I was always trying to look this funny, like you had like funny bands only always did this, that they was thanking their friends, and there was always like the stupid like nicknames and stuff like that. But especially I found a lot of bands when other bands were like there was an album from Advocates, and suddenly there was other Swedish bands mentioned, and of course I tried to find their music, like what is it, Dark Tranquility, never heard this name. So it was like a gateway to like a lot of cool discoveries. But now with internet, everything is open and available. I think a little bit too much also, if I may say, because I did like the fact that you didn't hear about the band or any band until the next Metal Hammer came out, or next Wolfheart came out, or like there was always this kind of like a cool mystery. You didn't know what is happening with the band. It might be like 1 year that you didn't hear anything about your favorite band, and suddenly there's an magazine like article that they are making an album. But now you can follow everybody on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, each member, and you are way too aware. It's too ordinary. You are just following those like you are following your friends, and it's just I did like the mystery side of the whole thing when it wasn't so open. And labels are encouraging bands to do a lot of like this more private stuff, showing homes and hobbies and stuff like that. And I know it's like a good way to get the fans engaged and everything like that, but it's everything is like here constantly,
even the name.
Yeah, that's true also. And you play one show badly, and then the whole YouTube has all those shitty songs. Like there's so many things that are not in your control, and I would like to be a little bit more in control of that, but of course that's just fight against the windmills that would never do any good.
I think the thing that irritates me most about the trickling, and I understand it, I think it's the positive side of trickling out singles is that you as a band can focus on promoting that one single each time a single drops, giving you a longer promotional cycle. But me as a listener, when I hear your singles, I want to know what it's bookended by. I want to hear the entire flow of the album,
Yeah,
the way that the artist intended the art to come out. So for me, like I hear these two monster singles, and they sound very similar, but they're so very different too that I need to hear what's in the middle and how they're connected. And it really frustrates me because sometimes you have to wait several months. Like in this
yeah.
case, you have to wait 2 months for the album, which though makes me a little bit hungrier for that album when it comes out. So when you write with that, how does Wolfheart keep you guys have such a heavy, dark sound, but you also have such a beauty, melodious, like it's just almost balanced to a perfect tranquility on one side, but the other side is just so heavy and dark. But it really, like when I listen to it, I just feel very peaceful. Like, I don't know if you have that same feeling when you write. Like
That's
it's
a good question. I never thought it that way. Like to me, it's very important when I write songs that there is like a separate storyline in the music itself. Like I always write the lyrics basically in the studio. That always brings very huge amount of negative feedback for any vocalist that is taking part of like today. The singer of Dawn of Solace, he got most of the lyrics today that he was supposed to sing today. So that's apparently that doesn't work well with the singers. But to me, the song needs to be ready first. The vocals cannot complete the song. The song has to carry its own story. The song and the arrangement has to work in a way that it carries the listener from the beginning to the end. And that's where I need at least, because I love movie soundtrack stuff.
yeah.
It has to have its ups and downs and dark and light and stuff like that. So it kind of like the music goes. If it's just blast beats, which I do love that kind of music also. That's what I listen in the gym. I don't want to hear acoustic parts in the gym. I don't want to hear clean vocals. I don't want to get calm in the gym. But when I write music, it has to has this like line of drama that it takes the listeners to different places and different emotions. And then the lyrics and the vocals add another layer of completely different story. But I think you are cutting corners if you think like, well, this is kind of okay song. Maybe it will get better when we add the vocals. I think there's something missing of the actual song at that point.
Yeah, I can really tell like the atmospherics that you put in with a synthesizer or the backing, the big symphony sounds. It really just gives like a nice cinematic flow to go along with like the lyrics.
I'm super happy that you mentioned that term because that was exactly the one I was telling our studio engineer who is now listed as the main producer, and he does all the orchestration and keys. And that's what I wanted to have, like more than on the previous albums. Not that it sounds symphonic, but it needs to sound cinematic. And I think there's a huge difference. Does it bring yeah, that was exactly what I said. Not symphonic, but cinematic. It has to and it's very it's very difficult things to explain. I'm super lucky that I have a sound engineer who understands what I mean when I say that, because cinematic is also symphonic. It's not like how do you understand music the same way, but in our case it works really well. But that was exactly what I wanted to have. That it's almost like a visual thing that you. Well, good example, like a really good friend of our drummer. He's a hardcore singer. Like he plays golf. He's just like a golf dad kind of thing. Not a metalhead and anything like that. But he was listening to our music, and his main emotion is that he needs to go to battle. He has a constant feel of riding into a battle, but in a victorious way.
Sure.
And I think that's a really I took that as a huge compliment, that there's enough aggression and energy that you want to go and fight just a random army, but at the same time, you know that you're probably going to win because there's something uplifting and majestic in the music that makes you feel that you are able to fight an army.
Yeah, and it definitely shows in your music. We were listening to it. I had to go to a show this weekend, and me and one of my buddies were listening to like 3 or 4 of your albums, and just the last 4 in a row. And we were like, man, this would be a great soundtrack to have, like for a movie. It just, if you took the vocals off and just put the sound, put a movie in front of it, just to let you know, we're running short on time. But
that was actually one thing I was actually talking in the studio today, because we have the same camera guy that has done all of our videos. He's like part of the band also. He does all the visual stuff with us. We haven't done a single video in the past 11 years without him, and we wouldn't do that in the future either. And we've been having this plan for like maybe 8 years already, to at some point when there's time, which we never gonna have, or we get funding, which probably never gonna happen. But if it would be possible to do this like a half an hour, like kind of like a horror movie thing, right? Not like a slasher, kind of like this brain dead style of but like Nordic way of like horror movie that has a big landscapes and a lot of darkness, and maybe some like a mythology kind of like angle that would make it really cool, and do a full soundtrack that they would be like a half an hour movie that has a half an hour continuous one metal song that would be the soundtrack, and we would put the video separately out like the movie, and then we would have the soundtrack. But that's insane amount of work, so it doesn't, but that is a plan that we've been like circling around for years now. That would be super cool to do, but I don't think any labels would make any money with that, so I don't know who would ask money for that, but that would be something I would like really want to do before I'm done with music business.
I've always thought bands like Iron Maiden or even Sabaton, or they tell such these epic stories, especially a character like Eddie, or they could make so many movies and video games, comic books, all kinds of things off of that.
But that is really tricky. Like some bands have tried the movie thing. Lordi, I don't know if you know the Finnish horror rock band that won Eurovision competition. So they were at one point they were huge in Europe, and they made a movie that didn't work out well. Nightwish, you do know?
I do know Nightwish.
They made the movie Imaginarium, and that didn't work out. So that can be a very tricky thing when you step out from this big stage show and people coming to see your songs and their favorite songs, and they want to see the stage set up and they want to see the members on the stage. When you take that whole thing to a little bit different concept, you don't have a stage, you don't have a show, you don't have those songs, you don't have those members doing the thing you want to see them doing. They are not playing guitar, they are not running around on the stage. A lot of things suddenly change a little bit too much. So that's why I would do my horror movie simply as a movie, and I would just do a soundtrack for that, but that wouldn't be anything connected with Wolfheart or Before the Dawn, because I think those fans, they are pretty accurate what they want to have from Wolfheart or Before the Dawn, and I don't think those borders are not that flexible.
But you're no stranger to side projects either.
Huh?
You're no stranger to side projects.
No. Like I said, if there would be time and there would be funding, those are my only like obstacles. Otherwise, I have no problem at all of making that decision right away. If somebody says like just take these thousands of euros and make a movie, I would like, okay, let's get it done. And of course, I like touring with 2 bands quite a lot doesn't help. Like having like weeks of shooting days and pre-production days, like doing the music videos between the albums is already like quite a big of a workload. So, but again, I would, if that would be possible, hopefully in the future it will be, definitely we'll get that done.
In case we get cut off, I want to thank you so much for today. But I do want to ask you, is there a North American tour being planned for the Draconian Darkness support?
Yes. But
I hope that Pittsburgh's on the list.
I don't know what's on the list. I know it's planned. I know roughly the bands we would tour with, but we are still waiting for other things to get confirmed that our part is ready for that tour. It would be somewhere in February, so it would be really good timing with the new album. We're going to do the European tour in November. It didn't help when there was the news about the US visas jumping 250% higher, that was super unpleasant news because it was already like US was already the shittiest country to come and play in the whole universe with the visa procedure taking 6 months. It used to be easier to go to Russia. Of course, now with the Ukraine situation, that's off the table completely. But your visa policy, like we've done South America, Asia, Australia, all of those places, and it's 1 week or something like that, and you just go and get it done. with US, 6 months, embassies, lawyers, shitload of money, and then you maybe get in. So it's, but I do love touring in North America more than in Europe. So I would be insanely sad if it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I work for the U.S. federal government, and I know how it does not flow fast. But
Yeah.
hopefully, it gets a little bit easier for you guys because we'd love to have you over here.
Yeah, I thought it will get easier the more, like we have got visas approved now 3 times. So I was hoping that it's kind of like the more you do it, maybe there's a fast track, or I don't know, but apparently it just gets more expensive and more difficult year by year. I saw this. Yeah, it was Iceland. The Solstafir. They already announced that they are done with touring in US because of the costs are too high, so they are not even going to plan a tour anymore. I think a lot of bands will have similar thoughts or news coming soon because, yeah, when your starting costs are beyond 6 figures, or 5 figures, it's not fun. It's a huge amount of risk. It's a huge amount of stress. You are basically updating your merch Excel sheet every night to see like how far you are from the break-even point. If something goes wrong, that might be completely like lost cause, no matter how much you are selling and stuff. So it's sadly it's becoming more risky. But again, I do love touring North America more than Europe. So
Now with touring, I know in a lot of the American venues, they're taking merch cuts for the merchandise selling. Do they have that same issue in Europe, like when you tour?
No. Overall, well, naturally everything is easier in Europe, but also with the merchandise, shipping inside Europe is so much easier and cheaper than North America. Also, like restocking the merch is so much smaller issue. And I haven't heard about like this. I think a few European venues kind of tried that, but it backfired really quickly. If you go to places like Italy, there is probably some organization providing for the merch that you might have seen in a lot of movies like Godfather and stuff like that. But everybody knows how that works. It's just Mercedes comes into the venue and 2 guys in the suits comes in and they say, we will take care of the merch. And then you are like, okay, fine. Yeah. And that's how they work. But like not in the same level. Like the merch cut is horrible thing because that's probably the only money that the band would make on the tour. So you're literally going into, it's not like management is making a little bit less or agencies losing a little bit of revenue, but that's basically directly from the pocket of the band members. So that's why I think it's not from the industry anymore. It's from the bands directly.
Agree, especially like I know a lot of bands in America are saying that they're really just t-shirt salesmen who make music because that's the only way. And it's sad that the industry doesn't pay artists like Metallica or Ozzy back in the 80s and 90s. It seemed like there was much more money back then thrown at artists than there is now.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Well, of course, like we have still in Europe, we have a lot of like most of the deals are the flat fee, and then we have the percentage. So if we sell tickets well, we make better money. So it's like it's fair deals for all directions. So then like what you get from the gig is pretty much straightforward what you were selling with the tickets. But of course, the merch is the thing that should be the band's business, not to anybody else to intervene. Because yeah, it's not like we are making millionaires in this industry anyway. So why would you take from the only money? Like I understand if you put like a little bit like 2% more on taxes, and then that goes from the whole fee, from the venue, from the agency, from the management, or something like that. But you are basically just it's real cash money that is supposed to be handed to the band, and then there's a third arm from the venue. No,
Yeah.
and it's actually physically like that. That's not even a joke, but it's there's like every evening our merch guy counts the money, and then he thinks like, I'm gonna give this pile to the band, they're gonna be happy, and then there's a guy from the venue like, I need my 20% now, please. And
that's sad.
So